Good afternoon. My name is Sebastian Burns, and today I will be discussing about the impact of reconstructing community hubs. Government leaders and city planners in Hiroshima faced the total loss of the community following a catastrophic event beyond just physical destruction of homes and roads. They struggled with a loss of sense of a connection and the need to restore a site of destruction into a functional community hub. The process began after 1945 bombing and has continued through the reconstruction period. According to the Office of the Surgeon Central of the United States, social connection is as important to health as nutrition or physical activity, highlighting that a lack of social infrastructure can lead to a loneliness epidemic. This leads me to my research question. Should cities prioritize rebuilding public spaces should cities prioritize rebuilding public spaces after a catastrophic event to create a space for community connection? This question must be analyzed from a cultural and social perspective. Community hubs are treated as third places, fostering connection, addressing the loneliness epidemic, and highlighting a crucial link between park proximity and high satisfaction with community service, 29% higher for park services. Such spaces encourage interaction between diverse racial and economic groups, according to the Office of the Surgeon Central of the United States and Fondero. Additionally, it is necessary to consider the economic implications. Public spaces, parks, and recreation agencies are framed as significant engines of economic growth, generating roughly $201 billion annually, supporting over 1 million jobs, and providing high returns on investment. These investments enhance community identity and help attract a highly educated and diverse workforce. While these spaces drive property values and tax bases up, they create significant negative capitalization effects. Improvements often accelerate gentrification, causing rising costs that burden long-term residents and ignore the social/health needs. This data from this table reveals that park agencies prioritize lower levels of participation, with 83% regularly informing residents compared to only 18% empowering them. While consultation and involvement are fairly common, participation drops as it becomes more meaningful, with empowerment used the least. This reflects a top-down approach where communities are informed rather than given decision-making power, limiting the ability of parks to fully strengthen community engagement according to Trust for Public Land. After recognizing the complexity of the issue, I've developed two potential solutions. Firstly, reconstruction often prioritizes housing and roads while neglecting the public spaces that are essential for social connection and community identity. In order to address this, the World Bank Group insists that policies should be put in place by urban planners and local governments to require reconstruction plans to include social and accessible areas. This leads me to my first limitation. Rebuilding social spaces can be often focused on gross economic impact and rather than the net benefits, which causes a failure to deduct the opportunity cost of how tax money can be used in different ways. Secondly, park development can lead to gentrification, where rising property values displace the residents. These spaces are meant to serve, according to Fondero. This occurs when the improvement of a neighborhood attracts wealthier residents, causing property values to spike. Lastly, concerns that focus on public spaces that are redirecting funds from urgent housing needs. According to NPR, these costs are often made up for by long-term economic ripple effects. However, it can create opportunities for interaction among others, reestablishing a shared sense of identity, while simultaneously acting as an economic driver. Moreover, the National Recreation and Park Association (NPR) found that park investments generates billions of dollars in economic activity and supports over 1 million jobs. Furthermore, prioritizing public spaces in post-disaster recovery ensures that cities can rebuild in a way that is not only functional but also inclusive and sustainable for the people who call them home. Since the list of limitations outweigh the implications, I developed a stronger solution. According to the Office of the Surgeon General of the United States, I advise that integrating accessible public spaces into recovery plans as these areas promote social interaction and reduce negative effects of loneliness. By requiring urban planners to prioritize parks, walkable areas, and gathering spaces, cities can actively support both individual well-being and collective recovery. While concerns over funding distributions and the challenges of balancing immediate infrastructure needs with long-term health investments, the Trust for Public Land highlights that investing in public spaces leads to healthier communities and reduce welfare costs over time. However, creating environments where people can naturally interact and build relationships with others is essential to the community. According to Quetta et al., public spaces significantly contribute to social cohesion, which directly links itself to improved well-being. Following this approach, communities are able to rebuild in a way that not only restores infrastructure but also strengthens emotional resilience. Overall, incorporating health-focused public spaces into disaster recovery ensures that cities will rebuild not just physically but in a way that supports the long-term well-being and stability of the community. Ultimately, the problems causing an increase in social isolation and a decline in public trust. And without changes made to the community, social infrastructure, and park access, the future will see significantly decreased community trust and fragmented communities, where interaction between diverse groups become increasingly rare. This is my sources I use for my argument. Thank you for your time. Are there any questions?
Yes, thank you. Sebastian, how did your research question evolve as you moved through the research process? And did your research go in a different direction than you originally planned or hypothesized?
Well, my research question shifted from focusing on rebuilding infrastructure to emphasizing public spaces and social connection. Sources like Murakami's reflection on Kobe and research on loneliness pushed me in that direction. This made my argument stronger by adding a human and social perspective.
And what advice would you have for other researchers who consider this topic?
I'd advise other researchers to look beyond physical damage and focus on social and emotional impacts. Sources like the Trust for Public Land and the Surgeon General showed how serious loneliness is. This leads me to a more complete and meaningful argument.